Welcome to the Pharmacist RN, a podcast made for pharmacists by pharmacists. Pull up a seat and let's get started.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Pharmacists RN podcast. My name is Ajit Johal. I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. John Papasturgio. This is Canada's #1 podcast. We just finished streaming at Pharmacy U. So if you haven't seen those episodes, they are continuing to be dripped onto social media. So do check that out. But I want to start with you, John. Where in the world were you over the past 2 weeks?
I was actually in Spain. Good to see you, buddy. I didn't talk to you in a while, actually. I was in Spain for the Pfizer COVID RSV masterclass. It was actually really good. And the one thing, Ajit, I noticed, and I actually spoke to Pfizer after, is the rest, because it was a global thing, like there was representation from everywhere around the world. Countries are really looking towards Canada, to figure out how we implemented, pharmacists as vaccinators. I mean, we take it for granted here, but most countries in the world still don't have similar programs. And I told Pfizer next time they do this, they should have us there talking about, what happened in Canada and the story here. Because, I mean, obviously they're vaccinating the U.S., the U.K., other countries, but the most of the world is way behind. And I think there's something to be learned from the experience here in Canada. So I thought I was actually thinking of you because I thought we would have added a lot, I think, to the slate of speakers there, and they were magnificent speakers, experts from all over the world. The message primarily is very few people are getting vaccinated for COVID right now. RSV's I think is growing for them, but they showed a lot of good data, and it was a good experience to be there. And, how about you? What you've been up to?
Yeah, no, I concur, John. I was also in Europe at a RSV global meeting in Frankfurt, Germany. 40 plus degree heat.
That's hot.
It's very hot. So dealing with the heat wave, but I certainly agree with what you're saying. For example, in Germany, their pharmacists are just getting their scope to open up all antigens for immunization later this year. So was presenting on some of the work actually we're doing with AI and RSV vaccination, education, and some implementation stuff. So on that note, I think the world is looking at what Canada's doing in the pharmacy space, whether it's vaccination, chronic disease management. And what's really interesting is when we look at things globally, what is the one thing every pharmacist has a touch point on anywhere in the world when someone's coming in? And that's OTC, right?
Yeah.
That's over-the-counter products. And I remember, John, like when I graduated from pharmacy school, and even to this day, OTC products are like the wild, wild west, right?
Yeah.
It's always something that is always an important question. So if you look at PBC, OSCE, there's always those like OTC. We're always supposed to ask, medication reviews, etc. What other non-prescription products are you taking? Are you taking anything over the counter? It's such an important part of the pharmacist's job, but there really isn't that sort of compensation. And it's almost like a chore. You get pulled from the dispensary to answer an OTC question. It's typically a long consult, and there's a bit of an aversion to it. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of the oddest feelings when you're working in a busy pharmacy. You're back there, you got a million people staring at you, and then you'll get an OTC question, and you're debating: do I go out in the aisle? If I go out there, am I going down that rabbit hole where I'm going to spend 20, 30 minutes with someone when the workload piles up? So it is something I think pharmacists really struggle with. And the other aspect here is in Ontario and most of the other parts of the country now too, you've got this issue of the minor ailments as well. And many of the recommendations still, are OTC related. And you have now you're juggling in your head, oh, is this an OTC recommendation? Is it a minor ailment? Do I take them back and do an assessment? And I think We have an interesting guest here today because he's come up with, I think, a solution that probably help pharmacists across Canada.
Absolutely. So we're pleased to welcome, as part of a three-part series, Hanson from the Pharmacists Deserve It. Welcome to the show, Hanson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I just wanted to say a quick congrats to the Canada FIFA World Cup soccer team for
Yeah.
the victory here. I live in Vancouver here, and I live in downtown Vancouver. So it has been absolutely insane. The vibes here are incredible in the best possible way. It's really shown Vancouver to be like, wow, this could be a really fun city.
Definitely.
Thank you for being here. And just like you were saying about the OTC things for pharmacies and that conflict for them, whether or not how to counsel, to go out there and counsel, it's not really worth my time. I really wanted to create this platform, this OTC counseling platform, to finally give pharmacists a way to get paid for their time and knowledge. That's my whole goal here, because I was just so frustrated the way that pharmacists don't get compensated for what they do. Here in BC, it's $10 dispensing fee for a prescription, but it takes no account into, insurance that we have to call, doctor clarifications, the parents, the caregiver clarifications and things like that. All these things that we do, and there's no way to get compensated for it, like, how physicians can get compensated for so many things with their billing code. So, I really wanted to start the conversation and start the solution for giving pharmacists a way to get paid for what they do.
Oh, that's excellent, Hanson. So I guess, like, what was the every innovator has like an origin story. What inspired you to really look at this aspect of the patient journey?
Yeah, I think exactly. So a patient came in one day and she wanted to return a nasal spray. And I was like, oh, how did you use it? And she said, I sprayed a spray in each nostril and nothing happened. I was like, oh, well, no, you have to you got to blow your nose, get everything out. You got to tilt your head back, squeeze one nostril, and then snort it inwards and really get it in there, because the medication only works, at that level when it's inside and constricting those blood vessels. And she said, okay, I'll try it. And then I didn't see her for a few weeks, and she came in again to the pharmacy, and she came up to me and she said, oh my God, thank you so much. It was the first time I slept in like 3 days. I was so stuffed up and I finally could sleep. So thank you so much. And I reminded her, like, oh, don't use it too often. You don't want to get the rebound congestion and things like that. So I said, only a couple of times per week. Try to limit it to that. And she said, yeah, of course I will. And I thought to myself, like, this is a real value I just did for this company. I turned this patient into somebody who would never use this product again, who would tell all of her friends that it doesn't work, don't use it, to somebody now that will be praising its abilities, telling them how to use it properly. And, when someone is congested and complaining about it, she will have the answer for them. And I just thought, like, this is a real value here. So I went about and I cold emailed a bunch of manufacturing companies, and one of them loved the idea, absolutely loved it, and it started from there. And they, as it's grown, it's the same problem for all the manufacturers as well. They're so frustrated that pharmacists don't know how to properly counsel on their OTC product, because there's thousands of them on the marketplace. How is a pharmacist ever supposed to actually remember all these things about interactions, onset of action, duration, all these things?
So Hanson, how does the program work exactly? Because I remember when I heard about it for the first time, I was a little surprised that, A, someone hasn't thought of this before, and B, logistically how the whole thing works.
Yeah, so I try to make it, again, very simple, because I really want to take in mind that I don't want to interrupt a pharmacist's workflow. I've worked in the community pharmacy for 15 years. I started as a cashier at Shoppers Drug Mart, and I know how busy pharmacists are. So I really wanted to create something that doesn't really interrupt their pharmacy workflow. So what you do at the point of sale, when you notice a patient coming in and they're purchasing an OTC product, at that point you can come over and you explain to them exactly how to use it. So for example, we have Cysto Plus on the platform. Just mentioning it to them, to take it with how to use it with the sachet. It works within the first 48 hours while it takes the antibiotics to work. It has no interaction with any of the UTI products, antibiotics, but there are some interactions with other medications. Just having that interaction there, and then you'd go onto the platform and you'd write a 1-sentence note saying, patient came in, UTI, I counseled on Cysto Plus on how to use it. And that's it. And you just hit the cancel button and it goes into your bank on the platform. So as soon as you have accumulated enough counseling points, you can hit the cash out button, and then you get a choice of a gift card that you can be sent. So it goes Amazon, Starbucks, or Tim Hortons. And obviously we're just starting out now, so we just started with the 3 basic ones that most people would be able to use. But as this grows, we want to open it up to a lot of different other types of gift cards and things like that as well. So it is a really simple process. It doesn't. It takes about 10 seconds to record it onto the platform. And I suggest for every single pharmacist, when they start their day in the community pharmacy, open it up on a window at one of your computers. That way, as soon as you counsel on something, you go in there, you record the note, and it's done. You don't need to worry about it. And, we have so many great products on there, not only Cysto Plus, but sub-Q pen needles, all the Utiva products, Cranberry, Zensa, topical anesthetics, a really good numbing cream. We have probiotics on there, a yeast-based probiotic that's perfect for antibiotic-related diarrhea, which is S. boulardii. And because it's yeast-based, it doesn't get interacted with the antibiotics. So again, so many products on there that are perfect for patient counseling, perfect for pharmacist counseling. And again, it only takes a few seconds out of a pharmacist's day to do it, rather than all the other things that pharmacists do that takes a lot longer to document and to fill out for minor ailments, for vaccinations, and things like that. And some of these products on here, the counseling fee is up to $10. So it's a pretty significant fee for your time.
So Hanson, sorry, I'm curious on this. So do you have the option of taking cash, or no? It can only be gift cards right now.
At this point, when we talk to the manufacturers and things like that, they're all very much more comfortable with gift cards.
Yeah.
At this point.
I was going to ask that because of the compliance reasons and whatever. I imagine cash might be a tough one to do, but it'd be nice if you could get there, right? Because listen, the province is paying us for minor ailments, so why they couldn't? I have so many questions, and Jin, I don't want to cut you off, but there's
no. Honestly, John, I think there's just a lot to unpack here, and I think it has massive potential. But I wanted to kind of focus on the patient perspective, because one of the things that's really been prominent in any pharmacist in expanded scope to motivate for funding from provincial payers is limiting strain on the healthcare system, right? So minor ailments, of course, has been rolled out. I'm in BC. We rolled that out in 2023. We have a long list, 2021 conditions. And you in Ontario started it, John, in January of 2023, and you're adding more conditions. But, it's not, they always say pharmacist is the most accessible provider, right? And I think those OTC consults are actually happening more than those minor ailments consults. So it's great that that gap is being identified, but let's discuss how things can go wrong for patients if they don't consult with a pharmacist and they grab something over the counter. There's just so many examples. For example, cough and cold products, nobody looks at those ingredients, right? No one looks at those ingredients. They might take too much acetaminophen. They might take, for example, the other thing is NSAIDs, right? They might be on prescription NSAIDs. They might take some over-the-counter stuff. There's stuff like St. John's wort that interacts with antidepressants. There's things like decongestants that can affect hypertension. There's sugar in products that can affect diabetes. And then, of course, not just patient harm, but what about patients who are taking PPIs, for example, and there's red flags, right? So there's almost this like bridge with taking the product properly, or as John, as you mentioned, where they could be bridged into a minor ailment consult. So I feel like that's a missed opportunity. And I think that what this program is doing is obviously, John, as you know, when it's compensated, it will drive behavior change. When you're compensating the pharmacist, and we've talked about this many, many times, right? A lot of these services compensate the pharmacy,
Yes.
but if it compensates the pharmacist, they're the ones who are going to step out and actually not just do this, but also collect some data, right? So we're going to talk about that as well. Like, what data are we going to collect on where are the hot spots and what problems could be averted?
I think that's such an important point that you brought up about the acetaminophen. You know, it's one of the, I think, major causes of liver injury in North America is the acetaminophen overdose. And it's all because, you know, the marketing on Tylenol is, you know, arthritis, muscle pain, fever. And these people think that it's all three different products where it's all the exact same ingredient doing it. And a pharmacist could just prevent one single liver injury because they mentioned to a patient like, oh, by the way, the three products you're purchasing here for your cold, like it all has the same ingredient here, and it could cause issues, especially if they're elderly and things like that. It just again such a good point to bring up.
Yeah, I just want to highlight, actually, I was looking at some of these statistics because we, you know, for acetaminophen, overdose is actually the leading cause of acute liver failure in Canada. And I think the numbers of Canadians who are hospitalized, almost 1 in 5, 20% is unintentional. It's crazy. So huge opportunity there.
Huge opportunity. You know, Hanson, as we were talking about this, I was thinking, because Ajit touched on the this thing we're reimbursing the pharmacist. This in the directly, this in the chain, even in some of the independent worlds, it typically has been one of those areas that, you know, people, you know, pharmacy owners, corporations are a little bit hesitant around. How has that been received? I mean, do you have chains and banners participating in this? There's always been this dynamic tension. Hey, if you're you know, reimbursing the pharmacist directly, you're circumventing the existing system. It's like I've experienced this for other programs in the past. I'm just curious how that's been received.
Yeah, so for the owners of pharmacies, they have been some of the best champions of the program because they see their OTC sales increasing. And that's a huge thing, is that they could never have done it by themselves, threatening pharmacists to go out there and blah, 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 blah. But now they don't need to do any of this stuff. They see the pharmacies, the pharmacists going out there on their own, counseling patients more on their products. And they see sales for those products also increasing because of this, because of familiarity now that the pharmacist has with the products, the confidence they have to counsel on this product properly and to recommend it properly to the patient.
That's such a good point, Hanson. So I'm going to redirect actually that point of the importance of the front shop in pharmacy business and increasing the EBITDA was featured in one of our Pharmacy U episodes with Yvonne Bacard and Don Swainson. So that's such a genius way for owners to boost their front shop and engagement of their staff without, and we talked about this, Hanson, before, actually coming out of their pocket, right? So it's a win-win.
Yeah, it really is. Once they actually get down to it and see that, you know, again, with this platform, the average amount that each pharmacist is taking home monthly is about $100 right now at this moment. So no one's getting rich off this program at all, but it's a nice little thing for the pharmacist. Maybe their coffee is covered for that month now because of this program.
Yeah,
you know,
and you know, Hanson, I think, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off there, but that's an important point, because if pharmacists start bringing home, you know, $2, $3, $4, $8,000 a month, the program will not, you know what I mean? Then you're gonna get scrutinized by everyone. Holy shit, they're, you know, they're generating all this revenue, and all the conflict of interest stuff potentially comes up. But you know, when you're talking about these relatively small amounts that aren't life changing, I think that's how you really get traction, right? I think you run low underneath the radar. People say, hey, this is a nice add-on. It's something I was doing anyways, but hey, I get a coffee or I get an Amazon gift certificate. I think that's the real potential, and that's you know, pretty exciting. What what I was going to ask is how many people are using it? Because I just heard of this and I'm still blown away that I didn't. I'm pretty aware of what's going on, right?
Yeah, we just started about 8-9 months ago, so it hasn't been around that long. But we have right now over 2,800 pharmacists across Canada signed up. And there's probably about 15,000 pharmacists probably practicing community pharmacy, 15 to 20,000. So, it's not a bad amount, but we want every single community pharmacist, because why not? Why wouldn't you be on here? Why wouldn't you be getting paid for what you do? You're doing it anyway. It takes a few seconds out of your daily workflow life. If you have it on there, a few seconds and you get paid for it. You get paid almost as much as some of your dispensing fees for prescriptions, for your vaccine fee. It's like it is a value for their time, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. John, for me, I do want it to be under the radar at first, but our goal is to get every single OTC product in a pharmacy that can be counseled upon to get a pharmacist paid for it. That's what we want, and that way it completely destroys any conflict of interest, because every single OTC product's on there. There is no more conflict because every single, and what we do is, if there's two competing products on there that with the same pack size and with the same active ingredient, we normalize the counseling fee, so it's exactly the same. So there's absolutely no difference between picking one or the other. It's just what's best for the patient, and that's it. But we have to start somewhere. And that's what I mean. But our whole goal is to get every single OTC product that is in a pharmacy on this platform, and it should be automatic. When they start a new product for a manufacturer, I want it to be automatic for them to be like, let's get it on the platform right away. Start it up here so that way the pharmacist knows exactly how to counsel upon it. Every single time a patient comes in, a really quick lookup. You can search any product on there just by the name. And you can see all the counseling points.
Yeah, that's I don't know, Jim, man. I as we talk about this, I wonder, like, why didn't anyone think of this earlier? It's something that I think came up historically, like in discussions why we had, but you've come up, Anson, with a really great, solution. It's incredible. Yeah,
It's amazing, and kind of looking forward to unpacking this a bit more in the next episode. I think we're going to get a lot of questions off this episode. What does it look like from the pharmacist interface on the platform? So I think that we'll definitely unpack that. And then we also talked about the manufacturer perspective. Is Hanson, your goal is to get all OTC products on there, and I think we should kind of talk about what the value is and what that process is. So enjoy this topic, guys. We will unpack a little more in the next episode. Until then.